This is Dragon Quest IV, also known as Dragon Warrior 4. This is an epic classic RPG. It's got different chapters and it unfolds like a truly epic story. And there's a huge cast of characters. You know, Dragon Warrior 4 is actually the first RPG that I ever played. I was 10 years old and I rented it from a local grocery store. Now this is back when everybody was running some sort of like video rental service in their stores. Anyway, the game totally blew my mind. Well, the cartridge label and the box art didn't really prepare me for how complex this game was. It's one of the first truly cinematic RPGs, one that was really created as if it were a movie. And when you play it, it really opens your eyes up to the sort of things that you can achieve in role-playing games. In particular, the game is filled with really good character development, and that's why I'm bringing this game up when I talk about Dream of the Red Chamber. So that book, my favorite novel, is the perfect example of excellent character development. Those of us who are crazy enough to really study this book know just how intricate its character development really is. In fact, the fascinating thing about Dream of the Red Chamber is that characters are generally not described by their outward appearance, but rather by their inward appearance. Now, if you're making like a TV show based on this novel, you have to have people who look a certain way, right? This is why the 1987 Chinese television version is generally considered to be the best because of how the characters look. Really though, it is a book that wasn't designed to be all that compatible with modern notions of narrative and storytelling. And you know, that's probably the reason why you don't see a whole ton of video games out there for Dream of the Red Chamber. I mean, think about it. It would be like a video game for Pride and Prejudice where people just sort of sit around talking with each other. But there is something that Dragon Quest has that Dream of the Red Chamber does not have. It's got a sense of adventure. The second quest in Dragon Warrior 4 is about a princess trying to escape the castle that she's forced to live in. This is one of my favorite segments of video game play anywhere. Meanwhile, the third section is all about a guy who sells weapons at a shop. Again, this is something you usually don't see in role-playing games. The rest of the game, of course, is all about a grand adventure, going from place to conquer evil and save the world. Dream of the Red Chamber is exactly the opposite, and it is deliberately so as well. The focus of the novel is entirely on character development, and nobody really goes anywhere or really does anything. And all of that really should seem at least unusual to you, at least in part. In fact, this was actually something that was unusual even for Chinese literature at the time. All of the other great Chinese classic novels involve some form of exploration, and many of them have been turned into video games, actually. So the most obvious is Journey to the West. As you probably already know, Dragon Ball is a famous Japanese manga and anime adaptation of Journey of the West. Now, Journey of the West works really well as an adaptation in large part because the whole book is an adventure. The monk and the monkey and the party go to the West and they encounter all sorts of interesting things as they go out there to get the sacred Buddhist scriptures. And the wide open nature of the story and its interpretation means that you can technically keep in adding new chapters until the end of time. There's no limit to this story. In fact, even though modern readers might think of the Dragon Ball series as like a ripoff of Shioji, its formula is actually right in line with the way that novels worked in the Ming Dynasty and the Qing Dynasty in China. So there really wasn't the sense back then that these books belonged to a certain author. There seems to have been a much more communal spirit in the sense of creating literature together. And so it's not really all that bad for a classic novel to turn into something like a manga or an anime or a video game, even if the story's changed a little bit. So another obvious example is Water Margin or Shui Hu Zhuan. This book is nothing but one violent adventure after another. And fittingly, there was an unlicensed Sega Genesis Water Margin RPG that came out in Taiwan sometime in the mid-1990s. Now this battle system is really painful. This is one of the worst I've ever seen. I'm still not entirely sure that I know what I'm doing. But the game is unmistakably Water Margin and it's pretty cool. There was also this fighting game that came out right around the same time. It's a ripoff of games like Final Fight. It's not much of a game, and you don't really have to, use your brain. But then again, the novel itself is kind of like this. Now, of course, the most famous classical Chinese novel with its own video game series is Romance of the Three Kingdoms. And that makes sense, right? I mean, you're talking about three heroes getting together and getting up an army to save the country. The most famous of the video games based on Three Kingdoms is this one, Tenshi wo Kuraru. It's known as Destiny of an Emperor in North America, and it is a pretty good RPG. You put together a party and you go out and you battle armies that you meet along the way. There's also a long history of Romance of the Three Kingdoms games that goes back to the mid-1980s. And of course, most of these games originated in Japan, which explains how they spread so far and wide. Well, it's no surprise. I mean, the Japanese really knew how to make video games. But the thing that really does surprise me here is that there really are not many Dream of the Red Chamber video games out there. And I really think that the reason for this has to do with a lack of action in the novel. The action in this book is mostly the way the characters talk with and interact with each other. The underlying story, of course, is that it seems that Jia Baoyu was destined to be together with Lin Daiyu, or maybe was Shui Baochai, depending upon which evidence you choose to believe. I mean, even the predictive aspects of the story are presented in a wonderfully ambiguous manner, so much so that there are still disputes about what is supposed to happen. Now, you would think that sort of setup would be a pretty good video game, right? I mean, maybe you don't have the characters going too far away from home, but at least you can have them interact. I mean, have you ever played a game like the old Princess Maker game? Anyway, we really just haven't seen that in terms of games for this book. So, for example, you can find this game called Stone Story on Steam. It's created by Belton Road, which is pretty sketchy. But it prides itself on being a complete AI creation, which means, of course, that it is utter AI slop. And what do? Do you just sit around reading text all day long? I mean, just like the screenshots and thumbnails, it looks like garbage and AI slop, and so I'm not going to spend a penny on it. If you do buy it, let me know what you think of it. Anyway, there were games in the past based sort of on Dream of the Red Chamber that were kind of controversial. This blog entry from 2022 is about a 2001 game called Honglo Meng Zhi Shi Jin Chai, or The 12 Beauties of Dream of the Red Chamber. It looks promising enough, I guess. Unfortunately, I can't get it to run at all on any version of Wine or even on Windows through a virtual machine. And some of the situations seem really interesting. Plus, it seems to be a little bit too focused on text and not enough on actual gameplay. And these screenshots give you an idea of how controversial this game really is. I mean, like, I'm a guy, I guess I'm supposed to be interested in this sort of thing, but honestly, it really just looks like utter garbage to me. I mean, why do they have to stick an erotic element into a game that's based on this book? I mean, what's wrong with focusing on human interaction? Well, back in 2006, there was apparently a Japanese video game version of Dream of the Red Chamber that went even further. This is Piano Korokan no Reijotachi, and it's really more of an erotic game than a serious video game. So this is an adult harem game that translates to Slaves of the Red Chamber, and it really doesn't have much to do with the novel other than the names of a few characters. And unfortunately, I can really only show you a few random screenshots since I cannot actually find a copy of this game anywhere. As you can see though, the only real connection to Dream of the Red Chamber is the names of the characters. The setting itself is unmistakably modern. Anyway, other than those couple of games with really obvious adult themes, there really has not been a serious attempt to turn Dream of the Red Chamber into a video game. Again, I suppose it's not quite as violent and exciting as like Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and Shuihu Zhuan certainly lends itself better to a video game adaptation. But I still think that the chapter system in Dragon Quest IV would work really well for this game. I mean, maybe it's not as adventurous, but Dragon Quest IV is good because of the character development, not because of the battles. At least that's my opinion. Anyway, so what do you guys think? I mean, should somebody go for a Dream of the Red Chamber video game? Could you see this turning into like an MMORPG or something like that? Or is this just wild thought on my part? I mean, is it impossible and we should just sit down and go back to reading the poetry? Or should we stick with the adult games instead? Let me know what you think down in the comments.